What is the best first suppressor you should buy? I'm going to tell you what my first suppressor was and why I know it is the best suppressor everyone should get first, or why you should add this one to your collection you already have. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. There's this weird stigma that suppressors are just too much of a hassle to get. So let's talk about the best way to actually get a suppressor here in the US. First and foremost, it is not hard, at least if you use the right company. All the suppressors I've bought, and even the ones on the table here, I have bought through SilencerCo or Capital Armory. I've had an outstanding experience with both of these companies. They have awesome employees, awesome customer support, and I can't recommend either of them enough. So if you're looking to pick up your first suppressor or your 50th suppressor, definitely use Capital Armory or SilencerCo. Both are solid options. The other thing with that, if you go through SilencerCo or Capital Armory, you can count on them only carrying the best brands. So any option on their website that you can purchase through them is gonna be a solid choice for you to have. AKA, they're not gonna try and swindle you with some crappy suppressor that they have. For this video, we aren't gonna go into the specifics of all the forms you need to do, but if you are interested in picking up your first suppressor, reach out to either of those companies. They are more than happy to help. And they make the process really easy and not a hassle at all. The only hassle part is the wait time. Once they help you get all your documents in, the wait time cannot be avoided. Typically, it takes anywhere from 3 months to about 12 months to get your paperwork approved, and then you can take your suppressor home. I'm sorry, you just can't get around it. So now that we know who to buy your first suppressor from, let's talk about what you need to take into consideration for selecting the best first suppressor. And again, for this video, I did a lot of that work for you, and I'll tell you my reasoning for why I chose my first suppressor. The first thing to take into consideration for selecting your suppressor is, do you want a multi-caliber can or do you want a dedicated can? This is gonna depend on what you have in your arsenal and what you wanna use the suppressor on. For example, if you have one AR-15 that is chambered in 5.56 and you want a suppressor just for that gun, a dedicated 5.56 can will probably be your best choice. However, if you have a pistol in 9mm, a AR-9 in 9mm, and a 5.56 AR, and you want a can that can go on all three of those platforms, you're gonna want a multi-caliber can then. My recommendation for your first can is choosing a multi-caliber can. And that's exactly what I did with my option that I'll tell you later. Again, going back to the example of having one AR right now, while that's what you have right now and getting a dedicated can for that would be cool, during that wait time of 3 to 12 months for that dedicated suppressor, you might buy an AR-10 or a AR-9. So it's good to think about the future, what guns you're gonna buy later, so that way when that can gets approved, you can actually put it on those other guns you've acquired during that time period. So for your first can, I would definitely go with a multi-caliber can. The next thing we have to talk about for your can is adapters. Or in another sense, how are you gonna get your suppressor attached to your gun? There's many different ways to attach a suppressor to a gun, but each suppressor is different in what they allow. For example, I have this HuxWrx Flow 762 Ti can here, and to attach this suppressor, there's only one way to do it, and that is by using the HuxWrx muzzle brake from HuxWrx. Another example is this older OSS flow-through can. This can only has one option as well, and that is direct thread to 1/2x28. Reason being is the barrel actually feeds into it here, and then it threads onto the 1/2x28 threads. So there's no way we could swap out or change the adapter here. That's the only way we can mount this to our gun. However, typically on multi-caliber cans like this Dead Air Wolfman, they offer a lot of different hubs or adapters for you to attach it to different firearms. For example here's the Dead Air Wolfman. I have a 3-lug or tri-lug adapter that can go onto an MP5 or Scorpion, anything with a tri-lug adapter. But then I also have the Dead Air Key Micro adapter that can be fed onto the Wolfman. And with this adapter on, if you're using the Dead Air muzzle devices, this will go right on it. It does the little ratchet on. And this Key Micro adapter is probably one of the best quick attach detach methods on the market. Also for the Wolfman, we do have a direct thread. This is a 1/2x28 direct thread that you can use on the end here for the hub, and it will directly screw onto your barrel. And then lastly here, we have a booster assembly that can go on the Wolfman as well. So this will be used if you want to put the suppressor on a pistol. Inside there's a spring, and what that spring allows, it allows for enough kickback or recoil on a pistol when using the Wolfman to cycle the gun so that way it continues to fire. So going over just that, you can see the Wolfman has a lot of different options for attaching this to a firearm, which can be nice, but again, it can be a little bit confusing. So as long as you know what guns you want to put the suppressor on and you can confirm what hub adapters or attachments you need, you should be all set. So to decide which is better for a first suppressor, I think having a suppressor that has more options like the Wolfman here, where it has the direct thread, chemo adapter, tri-lug, booster assembly, I believe this is a better way to go for your first suppressor. So that way you don't get your suppressor, realize there's only one way to attach it, and it might not even fit or go on your gun. So just make sure it's got the adapters you need to attach it to your guns. The last thing to take into consideration consideration, and I thought at the time was the most important, is the decibel reduction. There's not a lot of places you can go to actually test or test fire a suppressor to hear for yourself what the decibel reduction is. But luckily, Silencer Shop, as well as a company called Pew Science, they have a bunch of videos or publishings online doing the actual numbers on different setups for suppressors, so that way you can see the math behind it and how many decibels it reduces it to see what is actually the quietest. For a first suppressor, I think it's important to look over those decibel readings because there's nothing worse than waiting 9 months, finally getting your can on your gun, taking it to the range, firing that first shot, and then just having your ears ring with minor hearing loss. So it's good to look that up so that way you know what to expect when you finally take that suppressor to the range. Bringing things together, what was my first can that I bought that I recommend to everybody for their first can? That would be this guy here, the Dead Air Wolfman. Going back to kind of our needs assessment with the different categories we've talked about, the Dead Air Wolfman is a multi-caliber can. Its main caliber is 9mm and it does best on 9mm PCCs, but you can also use this for 300 blackout as well as 5.56 or 223. So it checks that box as a multi-caliber can. The next thing that I already showed on the table is we have plenty of adapters for this bad boy. So if we want to put this on a 9mm pistol, we got our booster assembly. If we want to do tri-lug, we have that we can use. We can direct thread it. Or like I showed here, we also have that key micro adapter if we want to use dead air muzzle devices. So there's plenty of options to make sure you can attach it to your different setups. The third category then is the decibel reduction. At the time when I bought my first suppressor, my primary use case I wanted this for was a 9mm PCC can, and the Dead Air Wolfman is one of the best by far on the market when it comes to decibel reductions for a 9mm PCC. Also, another thing to note is all the guns that I was looking to buy my first suppressor for was a MP5, a CZ Scorpion with a tri-lug muzzle device, a Foxtrot Mike's FM9 with the dead air muzzle device on the end. As well, I had various 9mm pistols with threaded barrels that I also wanted to put a suppressor on to be cool. Oh, and I also had this exact gun at the time, and it has the dead air flash hider on it, and this is a 16-inch 5.56. And again, since the Wolfman is a multi-caliber can, you can shoot 5.56 through it as long as you use their key micro or chemo adapter. So that's kind of the bonus of using the Dead Air Wolfman, is it also works on 5.56, which I have on this exact setup, and it works pretty great. One super important thing though to not overlook and try to lie to yourself about though is I did the same thing, so did 3 of my buddies, is buying your first suppressor. I told myself, buying a suppressor is so hard. I'm only gonna buy 1 can and that's it for my whole life. No. Such a lie. Don't lie to yourself at the beginning. Everybody has that same mindset. They want the multi-caliber can, buy once, and it'll go on all their guns. Me and 3 of my buddies had the same exact mindset on our first suppressors, and now we all have 3 to 10 different suppressors with all different setups. So don't lie to yourself and try and find that 1 can to do everything. A multi-caliber can like the Dead Air Wolfman is a great option to suit a lot of your needs at the beginning. So just don't lie to yourself going into this experience. Get a good multi-caliber can at the beginning, but know that you're probably gonna get a dedicated 5.56 can or some other ones as they come out. But if you want to lie to yourself, that's your choice to do. I'm not stopping you. Make sure and hit the thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next video.